just introduce on this wonderful sunny Can I just introduce Martin? I said, what would you like me to say? He said nothing. Just what I'm going to say is that when Nancy and I first came across this work, when it was up at Brown, probably in its first, was that its first exhibition? Yeah. We were completely blown away by it. And so it was wonderful to just have the opportunity to show it here. And thank you to Laura and the arts at Dartington for having us come in. It's nice to have the door open.
It is, isn't it?
Really. So, I'm going to hand over to Martin.
Thank you very much. I always wondered who turns up on Fridays. I don't normally get a chance to come along and answer my question quite well. Thanks for coming. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll describe what it is we're actually looking at. It's not always obvious, unless you've read all the blurb, and not everyone wants to read blurb, so I'll give a quick description of what it is and talk to you about the process behind it, because that's actually kind of what the work is. The work isn't necessarily what's on display to me, it's very much about what goes into it behind the scenes, if you like, and that's the bit that you can't see. And it's the bit I'm often asked to talk about when I talk about these things anyway. So each one of these is a sheet of glass. It's a formula toughened glass, just because it's a legal requirement if you're showing work in some galleries and in some places where public can come and bash it. So I gathered, and it was specified to be that. It's blackened on one side with candle soot or with flame, with carbon essentially from a flame. So any flame which tries to burn in an oxygen-starved environment will create this soot. And it's a heck of a process. It's really not very pleasant to do. So I'm kind of glad that I don't do much of it anymore. But it involved me kind of wearing leather gauntlets and a little face mask and kind of crouching down underneath a sheet of glass that at any moment could explode with thermal heat, and it did lots of times. And so it was not a nice process. Yeah, so the glass is heated and then coated in this carbon. It's completely inert, it doesn't harm anything that touches it, so it's not like it's any chemical in there at all, it really is just carbon. So the fingerprints, if you were to put your finger on it and touch it, you get an amazing fingerprint of every single line in your finger. It's an amazing procedure, if you like. The process well, the material is beautiful. But what I do is I track the animals, so this is not a case of kind of potluck, putting things out in the open, putting things out in the field or under a hedge or something. This is a case of spending a lot of time researching the space or researching the individual creature. So I might go into a woodland, for instance, have a look around, see a few badger tracks, see a few rabbit holes or whatever, and think, okay, there's things around here. And over time, I would go back to the same place. So I'm getting into the process now. This is what I decided to do for a year. And I approached Exeter City Council and their conservation department, and they have a couple of officers there who used to run the kind of parks and all the green spaces in Exeter, and they were really keen on there being some sort of show somehow which showed the general public what creatures we had living in Exeter, actually within the city boundary. So these are all creatures obviously that, are around us in a kind of urban environment, rather than being all from very special places or where you can, this is not some rare creature you have to go and go to Alaska to find or something. These are all things in our back gardens. And we collaborated also with Devon Wildlife Trust at the time, and they offered quite a lot of information about various sites around, because they've done a lot of surveys, environmental surveys on the areas, to let me know what roughly was in each area, which kind of speeds up the process of tracking, if you like. And the tracking process worked because I'm a complete obsessive personality, so I kind of would go in 2 or 3 times a day and just track. I just spend my whole time, hours and hours on end, looking for individual creatures. And after a period of time, I got to know which ones were moving around and how often, how frequently, where they were feeding, where they were sleeping, where they were going to the toilet and everything. And a whole lot came from these maps. So I started to draw maps, and I had sketchbooks full of maps of different areas, and I would have little initials for each of the creatures. It's pretty sad, really. And eventually, when the time was right, I felt that I had the knowledge, if you like, of the individual creatures. I would then put the glass sheets out and hope to capture a print. And this is what you're looking at. So some of them were fortuitous and happened almost instantly. Some of them happened after a couple of weeks, and 1 or 2 of them took me about 6 months. The badger one over there, the big one in the corner here, or in the glass window here. This is a I presume a female, but it's with a cub. It's a baby badger and a full-size one. The youngster seems to have run onto the plate very quickly and left this beautiful sweep of the tail. It's a stunning one, but this was quite a tricky one. It was actually the university grounds next to, and I had to go every night for 2 weeks and lay about 4 of these plates out. They took about 2 hours to blacken a plate that size, so it would take me all day to blacken 4 plates, and then I would take them out in the evening, and badgers are sniff all the time. They spend the whole time with their noses on the ground, and that's how their environment is, the information they gather about the environment is predominantly with their nose. So I got an awful lot of badger snot on the outside. A few single little black noses, yeah, everywhere. Badgers were going home, where have you been? Where did you come here. But yeah, so I got a lot of little single claw prints or single footprints where the badgers would have sniffed, probably not liked the surface, maybe they smelled me. So I realised that I needed to cover my scent, so I started to then wear gloves while doing this so that there was no human scent, because some creatures really don't like that. But after about 2 weeks of laying it down, I got this one which I was really pleased with, and it's actually my favourite. Yeah, it's great. What I love about the work is that most artists make work as an artist, as a human being. They make work that refers to the natural world or sometimes collaborates with the natural world. This is something, the process is important, that I'm bypassing, that I'm saying, look at these stunning images, they're made by creatures, this is not my work. All I do is set the situation up, the animal does the rest. So I feel that I can appreciate them as much as everyone else does in terms of, kind of enjoying the images in their own right. And that's something I've carried on as a process in all of my artworks now. I try not to convey them or to make them sound like it's my artwork in terms of it's my artwork. It's not. It's made by another animal. It's made by another creature. And if we can bring our artistic sensibilities to that and start to see it in an artistic way, in an artistic context, then we're reading the natural world in an artistic context, and that's kind of that's like the thesis behind why I'm doing what I'm doing. So in 2002-2003, I had a collaboration that was funded. Hey, how about that? And it was funded, I think because the council was involved for this, but it was funded to work within the boundaries of the city council, the city gates, if you like. And I worked for solidly, I got paid for 6 months, I worked solidly for 12 months. In fact, the whole show took about 18 months to put together. But, and it was destined to be shown in the Ram Museum, in the Royal Albert Memorial Museum, which has just opened. In fact, I think it opened last night. Yeah, it's been closed for 4 years for refurbishment, so I haven't seen inside yet. So it was shown in there, and there was a publication which is outside now on the tables there, which was originally in the first budget. And then after that, it toured around various places, various venues. What else? I had a commission from Kew Gardens to make 9 of them. They're on permanent. They're in the collection of Kew. They're in the grounds, which is really nice. And they've been to Cambridge, they've been to London a few times. They went to Bristol. I can't remember where they went there actually. It's a little while ago. So, and what's kind of sad is they've stayed in storage for a few years. They've not actually gone anywhere. And I'm in a position now where I've realised that I would rather the work was out there being appreciated by somebody, because these little creatures, most of these won't be alive anymore. This is kind of almost there. Yeah, I think it's really important that somehow it's out there rather than being stuck in a storage facility somewhere. So what I recently did was sent out an email to a few people that I know saying, if you know of anyone that wants to put these on, semi-permanent loan or whatever, to put in a venue or put somewhere, even if it's in your house, but somewhere where they're up and they're on display, I'd much rather that's where they stayed. And if I ever have to have a show at another time, I can always come and get one back perhaps, but it's, so that was the intention. And when that email came out, the guys responded and said, we'd like to have a show here, so thanks very much, it's really nice to have it aired again. Yeah.
Mark, I bet the day after you got in touch with us and said, could we take any of the show, Mark got in touch and said, there wasn't anything going on in the gallery until December, and we thought, aha! Right.
For this lot.
Perfect, yes, exactly. really. So
yeah.
it was absolutely brilliant because we were thinking we'd only be able to show 3 or 4 in our space. So.
Yeah.